Have you ever felt like you're living a life that no longer fits you, but you keep on going because it's what you've always done? In today's conversation, I sit down with Hussein Hallak, a serial entrepreneur and author of The Dark Art of Life Mastery, to explore how our past decisions quietly shape our present and how reclaiming the power to choose can change everything. We also dive into the future of artificial intelligence, what it means to lead innovation inside resistant systems, and how humanity might be holding onto a spaceship without knowing how to fly it. If you're navigating change, craving clarity, or trying to lead in a world that is moving faster than ever, this episode is for you. This episode is brought to you by Granola, Quince, HomeServe, and by Shopify. If meetings are eating up your day, Granola is a no-brainer. Get 3 months for free at granola.ai/Kwame. By Quince. Refresh your every day with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/Kwame for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. By HomeServe. Help protect your home systems and your wallet against covered repairs. Plans start at just $4.99 a month. Sign up today at homeserve.com. Not available everywhere. Most plans range between $4.99 and $11.99 per month for your first year. Terms apply on covered repairs. And by Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/Kwame. That's shopify.com/Kwame. All right, we talk about vulnerability on the podcast. This is my opportunity to be vulnerable, but I'll do it in a playful way. Let's guise it as a negotiation. So let's negotiate something right now. It's not a business deal or any kind of high-stakes standoff. It's just a simple agreement between us and you. So if you've been with Negotiate Anything for a while now, you've been on an incredible journey, 9 years long. We've sat down with world-class negotiators, gold medal winning Olympians, storytellers, CEOs, psychologists, FBI agents, professors, and all of this for one purpose: to help you become more powerful in your conversations, in your career, and in your life. We've published over 1,600 episodes, and we were part of the LinkedIn Podcast Network, an amazing partnership that helped us grow. But unfortunately, now LinkedIn is winding down the network, and many of the shows that were on the LinkedIn Podcast Network had to shut down because the money wasn't there anymore. But not us. We are still here and we are just getting started. And now we want to bring you even more, bigger guests, deeper stories, and more value than ever. So here's the deal. If this show has ever helped you, if it made you think differently, negotiate better, or feel more confident, we're asking for one thing in return. Just leave us a review. On Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you listen, because now we're going to be negotiating our own sponsorship deals. This is a matter of survival for us. And when sponsors look and they can see that we have a lot of reviews and our fans really love us and they get value, that gives us the opportunity to negotiate better deals. And when we're able to do that, that allows us to continue to do what it is that we're doing here. So that's your side of the deal. It could take less than 10 seconds to just leave us a review. And what do you get in return? Our side of the deal is this: we will continue to commit to bringing you the best guests on earth and to continue to raise the bar on the quality of this show week after week. So let's build this next chapter together. Let's make a deal. Hussein, I'm fascinated here, because you have such an incredible business record. And now we look at your next book, The Dark Art of Life Mastery, and it doesn't, at least on its surface, appear to be aligned with the things that you've done in the past. So tell us what prompted you to write this.
Yeah, what prompted me actually is I wanted to leave my kids with something. It was a selfish, selfless act at the same time. So in the past decade, I've been involved in the startup ecosystem here in Vancouver, Canada, since I moved here, and I've been blown away by the desire and how people are willing to give up their time to help and to mentor and these upcoming entrepreneurs. And I've gave my time to mentor and help as much as possible. And what that led to is that it really gave me this idea that I wanted to do more, but my time is limited, and who I can help means that is limited. So I thought, well, what if I can leave them with something? If I could leave them with something, I wrote some articles about, how to do startups, how to pitch, all of that. And I recorded as much as possible and spoke at conferences. But I felt that I could, just like those who helped me, for me, books were my mentors throughout my life, and the people who wrote books. So for me, I said, what if I leave that book? And I wanted, of course, my kids to, if I go right now, well, what have I left them with, aside from, learning about me from other people? So I wanted to leave them with something that will encapsulate all of my kind of life journeys, learnings. And I didn't think I could do it, but I managed to put it in a book.
And let's see, Hussein, if you were to try to encapsulate the payoff of this book, like the promise of this book. So let's say if the person who is listening today, if they read the book and listen to our conversation today and they take everything that they've learned and put it into action, what changes for them?
I would say that they will live life more meaningfully and in the present. See, our biggest challenge right now is that we live either in the past or controlled by the past. And I don't mean like, philosophically or like, in esoterically. No, we're always hunted by what have we done, or the kind of studies that we did, or, what was said about us in the past. We're always hunted by that, or completely dedicating the current moment towards building a future that we may or may not experience. And what we're missing is the power of the moment. It's in the moment that we get to build our lives. It's the choice that we do right now. It's not the choice we made like a moment ago. For example, I made the choice a moment ago to be on this podcast. But let's say if at this moment, I have to make a choice and there is something, let's say, an emergency calling my attention, I can make that choice in this moment. I don't have to be beholden to the choice that I made a moment ago. But most people don't live like that. If you ask anyone why you're doing this job, well, I studied this, or they define themselves by the choices that they made. I'm a writer, I'm a lawyer. Well, why are you a lawyer? Because I studied, or because I've been a lawyer for 10 years. Why are you a lawyer right now, for example? Very few people can answer that. And that is, I think, a major issue with how we live our lives. And I want to give people the freedom, but with it comes the accountability of our choices. See, most people don't want that. Most people want to, I studied all this time and I spent 10, 20 years, and therefore that justifies my decision. And they don't like to make decisions based on, the moment, because it means that you're completely in free fall and you don't know where it's going to go.
There is so much profundity wrapped up into such a short period of time. I don't know if you've thought about this, Hussein, but you should consider writing a book on what you just talked about, because this is great. And you know what's really interesting is that the humans, I feel like we fail as animals to do that which every animal does innately, which is live in the present moment. I think we would be quite shocked if we find that cows are pondering the mistakes of their past, and we struggle with this so much. I know when you look at the research, there's the default state of thinking, and the default state of thinking, like you described, is just not in the moment. We're concerned about the past. We're worried about the future. And I really never really considered the fact of decision-making and choice being linked to accountability in the way that you described. And tell me if this is a fair way of conceptualizing all of this, because it seems like, in general, humans struggle with accountability. We like to be able to blame circumstances. We like to be able to blame other people. We're in a bad situation, but it's never our fault. And it sounds like we almost think of ourselves as different people, where in the moment I'm in this situation, not because of any choice I am currently making, but because of a choice that a previous version of myself, who I no longer am, has made. And so we are almost outsourcing accountability to the previous version of ourselves for being in a situation that is suboptimal, but not being willing to make a choice to make it better for ourselves in the future.
That is such a great way of putting it. Not just for a previous version, but to a version that we basically want to be in the future. So that's why we're doing what we're doing today. So either or. So I agree. I completely agree with what you're saying. So yeah, we are beholden to that. And the reason is, I think, comes to several things. Number one, our fear of danger and death. So if you think about how our brain works for tens of thousands of years, what our brain was developed for is to sophisticated strategies to help us avoid death and avoid danger. So we've collaborated, we've built those tools and built shelters and basically designed our lives, if we think of it, for complete safety. And the other thing is comfort and laziness, which is not bad. I'm not saying it in a bad way. That's what we're designed for, to save our energy so that we don't have to look for so much food and to protect ourselves, which is great when it's actually working towards that. But when it doesn't have something to do, it considers everything a danger. So if somebody, doesn't unfriends you on Facebook, it's the worst thing that ever happened to you in life. It's like as close to death as possible. Yeah. We sometimes laugh them off and say, first world problems. we call them that, but our brain doesn't distinguish between the levels of danger. I mean, it does, but to a certain extent, a lot of times, based on how much weight we give something, it becomes the most kind of imperative problem that governs our world. And these are the things that drive us. And if we don't actively look at the thoughts and look at what drive us, we don't kind of distinguish, and we're governed by feelings, and we don't channel them. And that is mainly what I try. I don't try when I work with people to blame anything, or accountability is not blame, and it's not doing what's wrong, what's right. It's just looking at things and looking at the impact of the things that we're doing, the decisions, the choices, and then deciding for ourselves, is that truly what we want or not? This is actually what I tell my son or my daughter, and I say, listen, you have the choice to make everything. I won't be there to do everything for you or to guide you, but just make sure that the choice that you're making is not because you're blindly following someone. Like if you're going to go drink with your friends, don't just go drinking with your friends because they're drinking. Drink because you want to drink and because you want to deal with the outcomes of that, whether it's the joy or the pain that comes with that. As long as it's your choice, you learn and you grow. But when you say, I did this choice because this and because that, you become reasonable, basically full of reasons of why you did something. And then it's the reasons that led you to this. And there's no accountability, which means there is no true living. And I want people to live a true life, that they get to experience it fully. And you can only do that with accountability, because that's where joy comes from.
Wow. Yeah, this is such an interesting perspective on choice and autonomy too, because really it sounds like there's a nexus between what you're talking about and just freedom, the ability to live life on your terms, but true ownership. And what I love about your approach, especially as you talked about your kids too, because I have 2 young kids as well. And you're saying, listen, you make whatever decision you want within reason, of course, but at least own it. At least own it. I think that's so different. But what you're doing is you're giving them the power of choice. And I think one of the things that's so fascinating about this is the fact that humans oddly seem to need to be empowered to choose, even when they do have the power to choose. And so what is it that you feel holds people back from truly taking ownership over their choices and decisions as they navigate life?
Well, we were never trained to do that. Remember that human beings are born. Of course, we carry something in our genes and our let's say what we were born with to survive. But most of what we learn from a young age from our parents. So everything we know, regardless of school, everything, because most of school is nothing. They don't teach us about listening, accountability, decision-making, none of that. Everything that is taught there is about shoving knowledge in our heads. And I don't mean to like be, schools are very important. I don't mean to demean education. I'm a very big believer in education, but I think that it's missing a ton of things. We don't learn anything about working together, collaborating, about ethics, about morals, about what makes us survive and thrive as human beings. We learn everything about what makes us good workers in the current system. And whether you agree with it or not, it's still missing a ton of things. So we don't learn that, and we don't learn it from our parents. It's kind of, a lot of things are assumed. It's like just like you learn walking, you see somebody walking and you try to walk like them. But there's a certain point where these things need to be taught to kids. All of our lives as kids, we do something, we break something, we either get yelled at or somebody cleans after us. So that's kind of what we carry with us until we have to face the first time we have to face the consequences of our work. And we're trying to look to a father figure or a mother figure or somebody to clean up after our mess. And what have we learned through school or through, let's say, upbringing? If we hide our mess well, we survive. Right? It's if we lie our way through something or do that. So we never learned really accountability. I'm generalizing here, but really, how many of us have went through, I had great parents, but never did my parents sit down and say, listen, when you do something wrong, come to us first, tell us, and we'll work together through it. It's never like that. It's like, no, you have to be honest. That's what they told us. You have to be honest. But never is like the teaching of accountability, really, and what it means and how important it is for every word, for every thought, for every action. It's a heavy thing to say, like, listen, your words, actions, and thoughts have impact in reality. How many conversations have you had or seen people having those conversations? These are conversations we usually learn in coaching courses or in advanced leadership courses. These are essential things that every human being needs to understand. Look at the world. Our impact on the environment, our impact on people around us, the way we understand freedom, the way we understand society and how we work together. Most of it is erroneous, and we have to face crises in order for us to come together or understand how we come together and how important it is.
It's so true. And I love the exploration of education, whether it's formalized or informal, but a lot of times we focus on just the acquisition of knowledge, but we never really talk about how we operationalize that and actually turn it into wisdom, which is knowledge applied in the right circumstances, in the right type of way. And in life, we live life decision to decision. So the quality of our life is going to be contingent upon the quality of our decisions. So decision making is a fundamental part of our lives, maybe the quintessential element of what it takes to live a good life. And we're not taught how to do that. We're not even taught that there's a process or that there's a choice in how we can go about making a decision. And I remember one of the scariest realizations for me was going through school, getting this education, and I was always trying to find the right answer. And I was saying, if I do enough research, I can find the right answer, as if life is just a big test all the time. But a lot of times we have to create the right answer. But especially when you think about it through the lens of entrepreneurship, we're making choices, and we're often going to make mistakes and fail, not because we did something stupid, but just because that's the way that life happens. And we have to iterate and adjust. And so when I think about this and the wisdom that you've packed into this book, and I think about young Hussein, if you got this book at age 18, how would it have changed your life?
That's a great question. I would say I would have probably an easier, let's say, or calmer approach to life. At 18, I was still trying to discover who I am, but through, I would say, not the wrong ways, but like through trying to discover, I thought that reality or my truth existed outside of me. So I was searching at the time. I remember one of my searches were for the right religion. I'm of a small minority in the Islamic religion that I was like reading. And it was, the outcome was good because I ended up reading about Christianity, Judaism. I ended up reading about all kind of religions I got access to, because I was searching for the truth outside of me. It's like, okay, I was trying to prove that whatever I belonged to, whatever sect, was the right sect. So that's basically in my desire to do that, I ended up kind of seeing like, oh, they all kind of preach similar things. So it was good from that perspective, but it was trying to, instead of looking within, which is a really important thing that we need to, a lot of times our lack of understanding of the outside world stems from a lack of understanding of who we are and what we want to bring to the world rather than what the world wants from us. So I think I would probably spend a little bit more time kind of concerned about what I want really, and kind of thinking about the gravity of my choices.
You know what's ironic? As a negotiation expert, one of the most important skills I teach is presence, truly listening, reading the room, catching what is not being said. But for the longest time, I'd walk out of my own meetings realizing that I spent half of the time buried in my notes instead of actually being present. Things would fall through the cracks, action items would get fuzzy, and I'd have to piece everything together after the fact. But that changes with Granola. Granola is an AI-powered notepad built for the way that real people actually meet. Here's how it works. You take notes like you normally would, and in the background, Granola securely transcribes the meeting, and when it's over, it turns everything into clean, structured, and actually useful notes. And the best part? Granola works through your device's audio, which means it integrates seamlessly into the tools that you already use. No setup, no awkward interruptions. It is just your normal meeting with superpowers. You get to actually listen, stay fully engaged, and still walk away knowing exactly what was decided, who's doing what, and what comes next. Before Granola, our team would spend extra time cleaning up notes and double-checking details. Now, we leave meetings aligned and clear. It saved us time and helps us to operate at a much higher level. If your meetings are eating up your day, Granola is a no-brainer. You can try it totally free for 3 months. Just go to granola.ai/Kwame. That's granola.ai/Kwame. Get 3 months free at granola.ai/Kwame. Here's something that I've learned over the years. How you show up matters every single day. And I'll be honest, I used to overthink getting dressed, trying to look put together without spending a fortune on it. And then I found Quince, and it genuinely simplified everything. So I bought their stretch knit pin tuck trousers, and they have been in constant rotation. I'm talking about meetings with the team, running around the town with the kids, hanging out with friends. I just throw these on and I know I look good. The fabric feels elevated, lightweight, and breathable, but they're so comfortable. I honestly feel like I'm wearing loungewear. And that's the thing. They look polished and they feel that relaxed at the same time. One pair and every kind of day. And the price? It is not at all what I expected for that kind of quality. And here's why that is. Quince works directly with ethical factories and cuts out the middlemen, so you're getting premium materials at 50 to 80% less than what you'd pay for similar brands. For spring, think 100% European linen shorts and shirts starting at just $34, and 100% Pima cotton tees with a softness that honestly just has to be felt. And their pants hit the same sweet spot too. Relaxed and comfortable, but polished enough to wear pretty much everywhere. Refresh your everyday with luxury you can actually use. Head to quince.com/Kwame for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/Kwame for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Kwame. Now available in Canada too.
And I would have definitely made some choices that were different. But looking back, I would say most of my choices were, and that's the essence of the book, if I look backwards and now they make sense, a lot of my choices were kind of very powerful choices. For example, choosing to be with the person I love the most, and regardless of whoever was opposing, parents did not approve of that, for example. Choosing to pursue, even though I graduated as an engineer, I chose to pursue a career, or let's say actually I didn't have a career. I chose to pursue everything that was put in front of me. I had this, I say I'm a yes man. Like anybody who says, how about we do this? I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I'll go into doing it. And that's how I ended up doing like a gazillion things. And I wouldn't take it back. If anything, like I wouldn't take it back at all. I would do probably a lot of the choices the same. I would avoid the mistakes for sure. Right. And to your point, you said something about failure. Failure is part of the process. We never learned that because all of our learning is about getting things right. Why? Because it's important when you work in a company to do the right things according to their, to their manual or however they do things. They don't afford we can't afford mistakes, or failure is something that we don't allow. When actually, if you think of anything in life that we learn, any kind of venture, if you look at the best sports people, the best people who achieve something, their path to that is through failure, not outside of failure. Not by avoiding failure, you are actually avoiding the biggest success.
Yes. Oh, I love this. I love this. And I think this is one of those tough situations where I know there's the person listening is probably saying, Kwame, I don't love this. I don't love failure. Why are you saying that? But I think there's a difference between loving something and necessarily liking it. And failure is a great teacher. And when you can embrace it and give it the attention it needs and use it as the tool that it is, then you are not just learning and discovering, but also putting yourself on the path to creating the life that you want to live and the person that you want to be. And I think this mindset, I'd like to transition a bit to the future, because you are somebody who is incredibly tech savvy. And I mean, I shouldn't even say tech savvy. That's insulting. Tech savvy is somebody who likes new.
I love tech. Yeah, that's fine.
But you're a serial entrepreneur. You've had massive success. You coach thousands of entrepreneurs and founders as well. And I want you to just shamelessly paint the picture of what the next 5 to 10 years look like, as if the promise of AI is fulfilled.
I think we are getting more into. I was actually talking about the same topic today. You're amazing at this. So no wonder you're good at negotiation, because your questions are very, very poignant. So I would say the biggest thing, if we look at the trajectory of things, what we did is before we had to spend enormous amount of time, let's say before even books for printing, we had to learn from people. So people were the gateways to knowledge. They would have studied. They were the philosophers, the scientists, the people even before science, like the people who basically played around with things, the Da Vinci's, let's say, the polymaths that used to spend time studying, reflecting on the world, and they were the source of knowledge. And after that came printing press, and knowledge was a little bit democratized, and you could access them through books and then libraries. But still, there were custodians of knowledge, and you had to spend an enormous amount of time to read and get that. Then when the internet came about, it gave you access to an enormous amount of knowledge based on what you want. And then it allowed people, whoever they were, to write and contribute to that knowledge. Then you could learn not just from the experts, you could learn from anyone who has an experience in that topic, and you can learn from peers, which is how we learn as people. But then came the algorithms, and the algorithms, based on your level of interest, they reflected the world back to you. So kind of that's how our world is right now. And now we have a certain kind of AI, because AI has been around for a while, but we have a certain kind of AI which crunched or ingested all of the, not all of existing knowledge, but the knowledge that we have access to over the internet, crunched it and said, I can give you the answers to your questions in any topic that you want. You can learn, you can basically have access. It's kind of like we moved from being on a bicycle to now having a spaceship. So in a bicycle, you're very connected to your path. You turn a little bit, you have like almost enormous amount of control. In a car, you have a similar kind of control, but to a certain extent, it does a lot of the work. But in spaceship, there's the computer sitting between you and control. You don't, and depending on how erroneous or how well done, or let's say well programmed that computer, you get your answers, or you get to chart your trajectory. But what it means is that consider what it takes to learn how to drive a bike, or how to ride a bike, how to drive a car, and how long you need to learn how to drive a spaceship. So that is how you need to think about it. So what it demands of us is now all of us have to be astronauts. So think how long an astronaut has to go, the kind of not just mental, but physical ability. So you need to be tested across all of these things in order to lead the spaceship. But if you give the spaceship to someone who doesn't do anything with it, they'll do pictures of cats, like that's what they do with ChatGPT. They'll do pictures of cats, they'll write a few articles. But imagine, it's like saying, I have a spaceship and now I can get faster from, let's say, my house to the supermarket. But what ends up happening, I want you to imagine riding a spaceship from your home to the supermarket, how much destruction and how much you leave in your trail. And that is what we have in our hands. This is what AI models are right now. We can do the small things, you can do a to-do list. You can do the small things on it. Of course, it's very capable, but that's the path of destruction that you leave. Whereas you can do something massive with it, but you have to have the mental acuity. You have to raise yourself in order to raise what you can get out of the tools that you're using. Mm. And that is how I want people to think about it. So for the future, we can get far because of the technology that we have in front of us. We can definitely get far better on medical. We can get far better in education. We can democratize right now. But that means everything that we have, schools, doctors, hospitals, this fabric of society itself has to evolve in order to deal with us and demand of us for all of us to be astronauts or people who work around astronauts. And that kind of level, I want you to think about, we need to evolve every institution to become like NASA, as capable and as I would say, well organized as NASA. That's what we need to grow. And think of us, all of us right now are living on a farm. It's not enough.
Yes.
So that's kind of the way that we need to do. So we can the world can become all like NASA because of the tools that we have. The question is, are we all willing to take that? Because it requires effort, learning. I mean, to deal with AI and to really harness AI, you have to be very well learned and very well read and very well experienced. You can't just harness AI by being someone who's dumb and don't know anything about the topic. Of course, if it answers you, anything you're going to accept.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I love your answer. I agree 100%. And I think, because I love especially the analogy with thinking about library to internet to algorithms, and then also the bike to the car to the spaceship. And when I think about the evolution of the human brain, it really hasn't evolved since, in the past few hundred years or a couple thousand years. Like we are more or less, our operating system has stayed the same while everything around us has changed. And we have gotten to this point where life for a lot of us if we're fortunate enough to live in a more advanced developed country, our brains naturally orient towards comfort and the reservation of effort, which is a nice way of saying laziness. And so what you're talking about would require a hearty dose of effort. And I question whether or not people have it in them to put that forward. And so, because I know you've consulted with a lot of companies talking about AI and what changes they need to make, and there's still a lot of reluctance to make those changes. And if for us to do this well, we all have to become astronauts and our organizations and systems need to become NASA, recognizing that that may not occur. What happens if we have this spaceship level technology distributed throughout the world, but we have not upskilled and improved our systems to be able to handle it?
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is we're going to face this issue where there's a big divide in the world, and it will increase, unfortunately, and not everyone needs to be an astronaut. I mean, somebody can be a janitor in NASA and still be helping towards a mission. What I mean is that as a species, we have to be on a mission, all of us, for the survival of the species and the thrive of the species. And I don't mean that as a species to isolate. Basically, as humans, we've always worked when we were in younger groups or smaller groups, to for the betterment of the group. Everybody had a role, and nobody was forced in to do something, but we knew that we had to take care of certain things for us to be able to live together. And we kind of forgotten that because now we're such a big group, and we relegated that to the structure of society and said, okay, everybody does a job, and we do it in a certain way. We have to grow and say, listen, the planet is struggling. We have all this capability, but we don't have a mission. Human beings don't have a mission right now. That's what we're missing, that sense of purpose. I don't mean like in our everyday life. I mean as a group, as a massive group that are responsible for this planet. How can we not take care of this planet so that it's survivable and we can live through it? I mean, we're seeing things coming our way, and it's like, oh, let's sip some margaritas and what's the worst that can happen? Well, it's happening already. And I think that, and we have we created almost an enormous amount of tools and technologies that enable us to dominate the planet. And we're not real custodians, which brings us back to the accountability. Yeah. Most of our thing is like, okay, the future is going to take care of it. Well, now we have the Generation Z, and they're saying, it's like, hang on, guys, you're actually destroying the planet for us. You're not going to be here. But we're going to have to live through scorching heat, water, can't live next to the beach. And we have to struggle through this. Why? And they're asking those questions, and they don't see the reasoning, because we are the ones who lived through the past. And we're saying to them, you don't know what we've survived, and you don't know how great you have it. And they're looking to the future and say, no, we don't have it great, because we're going to live through all this mayhem that you're leaving to us. So this is one divide. And the other divide is between the haves and the have-nots. People who have access, and I don't just mean money, it's like access even, and people who don't have access. And I think unless we remedy these, or we take, I would say, steps that are effective towards resolving this, it's going to be really, really hard time for humanity and everyone, even the richest people, and even people with the most ability. They may be able to kind of divert it for a little bit, but the climate doesn't distinguish between anything. The planet doesn't distinguish. We have one planet, and good luck going to Mars.
Yeah, well, it's a far away, both temporally and in terms of distance,
technologically,
right? Yes, and and these are really great points, and it shows that there has to be some shifts that we need to make as a species, but also it demonstrates the difficulty in making those shifts. Because it kind of goes back to what we were talking about as a whole, like you said, with accountability and then also choice. And we're also recognizing that even beyond choice, it's almost like we are caught in the biggest game of geopolitical game theory there is, because we're saying, okay, well, great. We can recognize that we might be doing harm to the planet. Fantastic. Well, I'm not going to do anything until they stop, because why would I stop if they don't? Yeah. Right. And so everybody is saying, well, I'm going to assume that my partner in this game of game theory is going to cheat, so I'm going to cheat as well. And now we just keep on spiraling downward. And it's kind of going back to your point about the discrepancy or the distinction between the haves and have-nots. I recognize that, and I think that's one of the scariest elements of it as well. And it seems like we are kind of careening toward like every Hollywood dystopian future movie ever written, where we get to a point where it's pretty clear, and you're more in this space than I am. So I'd love to see how legitimate this is and how much is just AI hype to raise stock prices. It seems like
there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of hype there.
Yeah. And a big thanks to HomeServe for sponsoring this episode. We talk a lot on the show about being prepared, having the right strategy before you walk into a difficult conversation. But I'll tell you, nothing humbles you faster than being completely unprepared for a home repair. I remember when my water heater just gave out. No warning, no negotiation, just gone. And suddenly you're scrambling, searching for a reliable contractor at the worst possible time, watching costs stack up in real time. That is a stressful place to be. But here's what I wish I'd known. Your regular homeowner's insurance likely doesn't cover that. Plumbing failures, HVAC breakdowns, electrical issues, you're often completely on your own for those. And that's exactly where HomeServe comes in. HomeServe offers plans that cover specific home systems, starting at just $4.99 per month. When something goes wrong on your plan, you simply call their 24/7 hotline and they connect you with a local, experienced professional that can handle the repair. No panic, no frantic searching, just one call. They've been helping homeowners for over 20 years with a network of over 2,600 local contractors, 4.5 million customers, and a 4.8 out of 5 post-repair rating. Help protect your home and your wallet with HomeServe against covered repairs. Plans start at just $4.99 per month. Sign up today at homeserve.com to find the plan that is right for you. That is homeserve.com. Not available everywhere. Most plans range between $4.99 to $11.99 a month for your first year. Terms apply on covered repairs. Imagine your customer. It's late. They're scrolling, and then they find exactly what they've been looking for. Your product. They add it to the cart. They hit checkout, and then they realize that their wallet is nowhere near them. Passwords? Forgotten. Card number? Not a chance. That's the moment most businesses lose the sale, but not yours, because your store has that purple button. One tap, done. That's Shop Pay, powered by Shopify, and it's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. Fewer abandoned carts, more completed sales. But Shopify isn't just great for buyers, it's a powerhouse for business owners too. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, you can build a beautiful online shop that matches your brand. Shopify is also packed with AI tools that write product descriptions, polish page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. And with world-class expertise in inventory, shipping, and returns, Shopify is truly your commerce expert. See less carts go abandoned and more sales go with Shopify and their Shop Pay button. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/Kwame. Go to shopify.com/Kwame. That's shopify.com/Kwame. So because think about the replacement. So we understand we're trying to bring manufacturing jobs back to the States, but we also understand at the same time we have like different companies trying to create humanoid robots to replace the humans that would have been getting those jobs that are reshored here. We understand that even white collar workers, the people who are making the most in companies, they've got targets on their backs because they're the most expensive people in the companies. And so if we can replace them, then we save a lot of money. So how much of this is AI hype and realistic, and how much of it is overblown?
Well, I'm not an economist, but I would say it's unrealistic at all. I mean, just logically, if you fire all people, who's going to have the money to buy these products? I mean, the companies exist not in a vacuum. It's not like they're going to create cars for nobody. Yes, you're going to fire all the people, and then nobody's left to have a job to buy the freaking product. I mean, like, it doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, even Ford, who you may think of him whatever you want to think, but he understood that you have to pay your workers a living wage in order for them to buy the freaking cars, or else. But I think there is this kind of thinking that, oh, don't worry about the people in over here. We sell to another market. We open another market. Well, all markets are almost saturated. How far are you going to go before you run out of markets? And the kind of collapse doesn't, at the end of the day, the American, especially America being the most, I would say, the largest market in the world in regards to spending compared to the number of people. When that collapsed, when the buying power collapsed, and we see a lot of indications towards that, when you fire everyone and you hire all the robots and everything, and you hire people to take care of the robots. I remember somebody was saying that, well, we're not going to hire people to fix those little screws. We're going to hire robots to do that. And then we hire people to take care of the robots. Okay, good luck with that. But let's say you're able to do this and people's salaries go right to the dirt. Well, who's going to buy all those products? Because if this is the biggest market and that's what you're doing to it, what do you think is going to happen to the rest of the world? And it's like a game of, don't worry about it. That's the other things that we're not owning. That's choices that are not anchored in the accountability of what those choices produce. So there is one thing like that. But the other thing as well is that something I think that relates to a thing that is I think hold dear to you, which is negotiation. Mm-hmm. We've never learned to go into a conversation and understand that how to get what we want and how to let the other get what they want as well. It's like we given up. I think the world has given up on the win-win scenario.
Yeah.
I was like, it's either way, I win or you win. And it's about how much power and leverage I have over you. And you forget that at the end of the day, it's not like you're leaving and you're completely in different universes. You're in the same world and you're so interconnected. We've built a world right now that is so interconnected that if somebody hurts here, everybody's going to feel it one way or the other on the other side of the world. And unless we learn how to negotiate a win-win scenarios and learn how to talk to each other in a way that collaboratively build something bigger than all of us, which is something that we successfully have been able to do. I mean, if you look at our economies, we've been experiencing so much growth, so much expansion. And we can do even more. We have more food than we can eat. All of the 8 billion. We have more money and still billionaires can have their billions. So if you want to be a billionaire, you can have that. And still everyone can live at a suitable way of living. And we have systems and technologies that can serve everyone, but somehow we're unable to navigate all of this. And I refuse to say that it's a lack of, imagination or capability. It's the lack of will, I would say, and the lack of education, understanding what kind of world or having a vision to the world that is actually constructive. And that's the first thing that I think you learn in negotiation. I mean, I've heard you talk about that. And I think it's something that you can talk about even more than me, even.
Yeah, it's a great point because you're 100% right. I think the especially at the higher levels, even the desire to even articulate a potential win-win solution seems to be frowned upon. The people who have the most power, they are concerned about winning, but also concerned about making sure somebody else does not win at the same time. And I think it's one of those situations where they understand how they think and they recognize that other people at the top level might think that way. So if I give a win-win, then I might just be empowering my enemy to dominate me in return. It's a really scary thing. And I'm wondering how to kind of break free from that on some of the largest levels. Because when we think about negotiation, one of the tools of negotiation is we have persuasion and influence. And when you think about the concepts of power and leverage as applied to negotiation, at the end of the day, those are tools of influence as well. Because I don't even need to be persuasive if I have power and I can hurt you and I could just lean on you with that weight. Mm-hmm. And it seems as though the people who are making the biggest decisions have recognized that, yeah, I could move forward my agenda with a win-win solution, or I could make my whole strategy based on power acquisition. And then I don't even need to be concerned about the cares of other people. And I can still just lean on my power to get the agenda passed. And it's a tough situation. And my concern is, how do we kind of unring that bell? Because the people who have the power, one of the main concerns about power is the perpetual retention of power. And I don't know, Hussein, and this is my audience is like, oh my gosh, Kwame is usually so positive. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how to go about doing it. I'm stuck. And yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think in the entrepreneurship space, I would say one of the biggest thing that we teach entrepreneurs is that first the idea of let's say, don't try to compete, in the sense that try to innovate and create something, try to create value. The competition is not about taking something from someone. It's more about, can I create something more valuable? And by creating something more valuable, you drive the market forward. And it's the idea of value is something that is so, that I think people forgot about. They think business is about money. Business is about value. It's at the essence of it, it's the one word that summarizes all business. Business is the creation, the delivery, and the extraction of value. You create value, you deliver that value through different methods, and you extract value from let's say, your customers. And unless there is an exchange of value, there's no business. No business will survive without the exchange of value. Now, if you go out in life and you do that, it's the idea is not, when you're competing about the same thing, then there is no exchange. When you create an exchange, you now have, I produce this, you produce that, and we do an exchange. Mm-hmm. And that is how the world, for the previous period of time, and in fact, actually, even the US have managed to do that, where the way they kind of stopped, let's say, certain countries of pursuing, let's say, nuclear weapons and stuff like that, is by giving them a place in the world. When you actually have a place, you don't need to fight for that place. And so in a world where one entity or a few entities want to dominate everything, everybody else will fight, and everybody will fight for that place, no matter how weak they are. See, the challenge with us as human beings is unless we have a chip in our mind that kind of subdued who we are and our natural let's say, tendencies, we will most likely try to, even if we know we're going to fail, we're going to fight till the end. Nobody stays in their place. If you look at history, that's never been our history. People will revolt. Now, after 50 years, after 100 years, people will revolt, no matter how weak, no matter how minimal resources they have. So if you have an understanding of history, what you do is, to be able to be successful in negotiation, in my opinion, what you do is you come in and immediately understand that the other person has demands, and you try to find a place where their demands and your demands can be met. That is the innovation that's how you bring innovation to business, to life, to negotiation. When you understand the other person, not ignore the demands of the other person, because that's a recipe for disaster. And that is what I think is missing. And that ignoring somebody else comes from ignorance, which is kind of pretend or, not knowing. Whereas what you should come in is like knowing that human beings have demands, have desires, have passions, have missions, have things that drive them. Understanding it is the first thing for a real negotiation, because that's how you establish win-win. But when you ignore someone and say, I'm all powerful, who cares about the other person? You're setting yourself up to fail no matter how powerful you are.
Yes. And that's the thing that a lot of times people don't recognize, is that power is dynamic. It's not static. And so you might have the power now. And if you wield that power in a way that is hurtful unnecessarily to other people, once they get the momentum, once they get the power, they're going to remember that, And 100%. So it's important to keep that in mind, especially when we are in situations where we do have the power. It's still important for us to use that power ethically and with a little bit of restraint. So we've got something interesting today, and I think we'll have some fun with this. We received a letter from a listener who's dealing with a tough situation, and I think it's one that a lot of people can relate to. Ashley from our team is going to read the letter for us, and then you and I will break it down together. And also, by the way, if you, yes, you, listener, I'm talking to you, if you're ever in a tricky situation or have a workplace dilemma or just have a story you want to share with us, we'd love to hear from you. You can send your story to our producer, Simone, spelled like Simon, at negotiateanything.com. So that's SIMON at negotiateanything.com, because we're always looking for real situations to dive into. All right, let's get into it. Here's Sarah's letter.
Hi, Hussein. I work for a mid-sized cultural institution. Think museum meets learning hub. We've been exploring how to use AI and immersive tech to attract new audiences, especially younger ones. The challenge? Leadership is split. Half the team is excited and curious. The other half thinks it's a gimmick or that it undermines the integrity of what we do. I've tried to show examples, explain benefits, even bring in experts, but resistance remains. It feels like I'm constantly having to sell the future to people who are clinging to the past, and it's exhausting. I know we'll fall behind if we don't evolve, but I'm also worried about pushing too hard and losing credibility internally. So how do I lead this change without burning out or burning bridges? Thanks, Avery.
Brilliant question. So I would say three things. Number one is establishing a criteria. What it means is that you remove the thing that you're talking about. It's kind of like if we were to come back to the bike, the car, and the spaceship. Some people are believers like this car is the best thing. Some people are like, what's wrong with the bike? The other's like, but we can get a spaceship. So this is basically what's happening. So instead of debating the method of how to get there, debate what's the criteria that you want to establish. This is something that everybody can agree on. It's like, okay, we want to reach there with comfort. We want to reach there fast. So you establish a criteria that everyone agrees on, and you decide that whatever tool that achieves that criteria, the best and the most effective way, is the tool that everyone's going to agree on. Why? Because they agreed on the criteria. They shouldn't care about the method. So the first thing when you want to bring people together that have different opinions about the things that you use or about the strategies that you can use, is agree on the criteria, because mostly you would find you can establish consensus there. So start with the criteria. The second thing you do is do experiments. This is something we do a lot with entrepreneurs. Do experiments that are very minimal in their impact, but show you the way. So instead of being someone who's for something, be for the result, which is the criteria, and then be for experimentation. So what you do is you bring in and say, okay, what is an experiment that we are comfortable with? So some people will say, we're comfortable in spending, let's say, $1,000 or let's say $10,000, or let's say if you can get a grant to do that, especially if you're a cultural institution. You may be able to get a grant to do this. So you say, okay, we'll get a grant, or we get, let's say, $1,000 to test this. What are the experiments? What do we want to establish that will guide us to the next step? And usually, if you ask people to make a leap of faith, most of them will not. What you want to do is you want to take them step by step. It's like, okay, what if we take one step forward to see what's going to happen? Maybe there's benefit. Maybe we can achieve that criteria we all agree that is important to our institution. So you make a small experiment, and then based on the results of that experiment, you make a bigger experiment and slowly you move towards that direction. And the good thing about this is you will discover several things. Number one, you may not be right. Basically, the solution may be a combination of what they're bringing and what you're bringing. And that is what collaborative innovation looks like. And the other thing is that you now have a criteria that is clear to where you want to go. Everybody's clear on, and you give the opportunity for other people to bring their opinions and their ideas of how to achieve that, which means as a result, you advance the organization forward, not about whether we are technologically savvy or not, or whether we apply the latest technology or not, or we, as an organization, we're moving towards our goal. Who cares how? So these are kind of the things that I usually work with institutions and with entrepreneurs and with organizations on achieving. I hope this is helpful for you.
Yes, it's incredibly helpful. And I love the 3 steps here too. And I think that this approach is not just great for this scenario. This is great for the tough situations that we have in our everyday lives too. I think this is something that people don't have conversations about enough, which is debating the criteria, having a conversation about the criteria. We always focus on the conclusion. What's the decision that needs to be made? What's the outcome that we're driving toward? Instead of just saying, all right, let's align on the underlying principles of what a good decision would be in this situation. And what you'll find is that you more often than not are going to be pretty much aligned on the majority of the criteria that's stated in order to determine what a good decision is. Now we just need to determine what that decision actually needs to be. But being incremental is incredibly powerful. And I think this kind of microwave mentality that people have when they're not willing to put in work over time hurts us in this situation, because we try to persuade and get too much too soon. Where you have somebody who wants to ride a bike and you're taking them to a spaceship and you want them to decide in 4 minutes, and you only have 4 minutes of patience in this process. It's simply not possible.
100%. May I add one thing on this, actually? Actually, a couple of things. Number one, yes, you're right. We're so driven by, we see the future and we see the path to it. And we want just everybody, if they only agree, we'll get there. And we're so sure of it. And I think at that moment is when we should stop and include everybody. And what I would recommend is to go check a TEDx talk or TED talk that's called the Marshmallow Challenge. There's a book called the Marshmallow Challenge. They're two different, but the Marshmallow Challenge talks about collaboration. And it's a fun, very fun game that you can do with the organization so that people understand how they collaborate. Watch the video or actually do the challenge, watch the video, let people work together. It's a brilliant, it's an old talk, but it's a brilliant kind of approach to how people collaborate and how they work together. And it's a true kind of illustration of why we fail to work together and how we can come together to succeed.
Listen, Hussein, if marshmallows are involved, I'm in. So
that's a lot of fun.
That sounds great. Fantastic. Okay. So this is the hardest part of the conversation for me because I've really enjoyed this, but we have to land the plane somewhere, or land the spaceship, maybe I should say. So for the person who's listening to this, if there is one idea or takeaway from this conversation, something that could shift how they approach innovation, leadership, difficult change, or just the way that they think in general, what would you say is that one idea that you want folks to leave with?
That's a challenge. I would say look at three people. The 1-year-old who's trying to walk and see how they get to walk. They fall their way into walking. That is the human way to learn and to grow in this world. Look at the 5-year-old and how they have zero blame when they play with Legos for 2 hours, and then they leave it in an instant, and they go play with a fire truck or something, and they have no blame. It's like, oh, but you spent 2 hours building this. They leave it. They are driven by what gives them joy at the moment. And the last thing I would say is look at the future you that you want to be, and what's stopping you from making the choices today to enjoy what that future you will enjoy. Not to become, because a lot of times we think about it like, oh, I want to become a doctor, but what is it that it gives you? So if you go through life and reach the thing that you want to reach, like you want to work and get a good company, you end up as like, oh, I want to sit on the beach and enjoy relaxing. Well, why don't you go right now and experience what that's like? Kind of a good way of saying it. If you really want to get the Ferrari, go do a Ferrari test drive and see what that feels like, instead of working 20 years only to find out that it's not all it comes out to be. That kind of thing. So that's what I leave you with.
That is so good. And the Ferrari dealerships will be flooded today because of you, my friend. This is so great. And for the folks who want to connect with you more, get in touch with you, learn about the books and the other programs that you're doing, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
HusseinHallak.com, or search my name, Hussein Hallak, on Google, and you'll find me.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Hussein, I really appreciate it, brother. Thanks for coming on the show. If you've made it to the end of this episode, you're now part of our negotiation community. Every conversation, every deal, every tough negotiation shapes the world that we live in. And the more we grow together, the stronger our community becomes. If this episode gave you something valuable, don't let it stop with you. Share it with someone who needs it, a friend, a coworker, or anyone looking to take more control of their conversations, their careers, and their lives. Every time we bring somebody new into this space, we make negotiation a tool for real change. And if someone shared this with you, take a second to acknowledge that. They see you as part of this journey and as someone who belongs in this community. Let them know you appreciate it. This is how we build something meaningful. We do it by looking out for each other. So if you haven't already, join us, subscribe, stay connected, and help us to grow this movement. Because when we become better negotiators, we create better outcomes for ourselves and for others. Hit subscribe and share this with someone, and let's keep building together. I'll catch you in the next one.